In today's show, the Blazers get throttled in Memphis. But hey, at least Deni Avdija is finding his rhythm. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen. Coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we're talking Blazers loss in Memphis. They play the Grizzlies, and that is just not a good matchup for your beloved Trailblazers. That's not a team that you want them to play too many more times. But listen, it wasn't a 45-point beatdown. They got it much closer this time. Still not particularly close in the end. We'll do our fastest recap in the West for that one, talk about what went wrong and a little bit that went right, including Deni Avdija, who seems to be finding his footing for the Blazers. We'll talk about Deni kind of getting a rhythm and figuring out where he fits, and the Blazers figuring out different ways to deploy him as well. And then I want to talk about kind of where the Blazers are. I don't think this was like this sky is falling type of loss, but it is one of those just like, maybe it's going to be like this type of moments, because maybe it's going to be like this. Let's get into all that. We'll close the show with some thoughts on that. And plus, there's some injury news. Got actual real injury update to report here, courtesy of the Locked On Podcast Network. Let's do our fast recap in the West, then we'll get into some news. Blazers, of course, last time they played against the Memphis Grizzlies, lost by 45 points. It kind of spurred them to play much better basketball, but that Grizzlies team did not have Ja Morant, and your boy Demetrius back in action. He missed the prior 8 games with a hip injury, and then he returns, and boy, did he look fine. Ja Morant looks good, and the Grizzlies take a 36-24 lead after one. The Grizzlies hit 7 threes in the first quarter. They're not a great three-point shooting team. They're not bad. They're certainly, but they're not like, they're a good offensive team, but they're not like one of these like bomb away crazy three-point shooting teams. They're slightly below average on the year, and they're going to shoot less with Ja because that's just sort of his style. But they're a good offensive team. Their system is good, and they generate some buckets. But when they hit 7 threes in the first quarter, it's like uh-oh. But then the Blazers hung with it in the second quarter. They get to the free throw line, take 7 free throws. They get 7 offensive rebounds. They commit just 2 turnovers. And because the Blazers were careful with the ball, this was a game heading into halftime. The Blazers down 65-54, an 11-point deficit. But, they were down 12 after 1. They're still in this game, cut into it a little bit and score 30 points in the second quarter. And it's like, all right, maybe they've got a chance. And then the third quarter happened. And when they come out of the third quarter, Rob Williams does not join them. Jabari Walker starts at center in the second half. And the Blazers eventually announced that Rob Williams is in the concussion protocol, or I don't even know if they said that. I think he said that. I think the actual language was he's being checked for a concussion. Teams are very, very careful to not say guys are in the concussion protocol, because if they're in, it means they have to clear some thresholds. And if they just are getting checked, maybe they don't get in, and there's no thresholds to clear. But it's generally the same thing. And then 2 minutes into that third quarter, Jeremy Grant left the game with a left knee of what the Blazers eventually termed a left knee injury, and he did not return. So now all of a sudden you're just like super light on helpful players. The Blazers' depth already challenged in this game because there's no DeAndre Ayton, no Donovan Clingan, more on him in a moment, and there's no Scoot Henderson, who missed a second straight game with a back injury related to a car accident that he had last week. That's just bad news. But so, you're shorthanded. You're going up against a good team. The Grizzlies are deep, and they're going to be a problem. Blazers only scored 21 points in the third quarter, and they're down 17, 92-75 heading into the fourth quarter. Kind of vaguely in it if things go right. Shaedon Sharpe and Anthony Simons on the court to begin the fourth quarter. You got your best offensive players, at least in theory, out there. And the Grizzlies rip off an 11-2 run over the first 3 minutes of the fourth quarter, and that's their ball game. Blazers never got closer than the 17 they were trailing by when they entered the quarter. It was over in a hurry, and Grizzlies go on to win 123-98. That's your fastest recap in the West. Blazers never led in this game, trailed by as many as 28. Troublesome. I don't think this is the end of the world. The Blazers didn't shoot well, 8 of 46 from 3. They're a bad shooting team. So much of what this is, and I'll talk about this more later in the show, is like they need Anthony Simons to be a good offensive player, and I don't think he was terrible as a playmaker tonight. The assist didn't show up because the rest of the team shot bricks as well. But like they need him to be better than to score 5 points on 2 of 14 shooting. That's a problem, and like they need Shaedon Sharpe to level up and be better than he was. He finished with 15. Deni Avdija 17, a game, it's team high off the bench for the Blazers. We'll talk about Deni a bunch in the second segment. Let's talk a little about the news. We have some real Blazers news. This is actual Blazers reporting that I haven't seen other places, and it's not even mine. According to Josh Lloyd of Locked On Fantasy Basketball, the Donovan Clingan is set to miss 1 to 2 weeks with that left knee sprain. The Blazers have not given him a timeline. They have not given him a PDF. Good sign. No PDF is a good sign. No email with an update means it's not a long-term injury, at least for now. We will see. Those PDFs can arrive at any time. I'm recording this very late on a Monday evening. So we'll see what happens. But Josh Lloyd reported on Locked On Fantasy Basketball on Sunday night that Clingan was likely to miss 1 to 2 weeks, according to his sources, with this left knee sprain. So could be a little bit of time. Clingan, of course, got hurt against the Rockets and then came back into the game, finished a little bit of the game, and then played more after he initially left the game. He didn't finish the game because they put Deni in there, yada, yada, yada. But like returned to the court after the injury and is now out for maybe an extended period of time, maybe the end of the road trip. I don't know enough about how medicine works to say whether the returning to the game is the thing that is the problem. But I will say, if you're going to miss an extended period of time, you probably should not have come back in the game to begin with. But you might have. I can't tell you whether he aggravated that or not. But could be the rest of this week. So the Blazers finish out a road trip in Indianapolis on Wednesday, and then they're back against the Kings on Friday. So it could be the rest of this week. It could be a little bit longer for Clingan. Josh Lloyd, Locked On Fantasy Basketball. He's the best doing it. Go listen to his show. Still no DA and still no Scoot. DeAndre Ayton's still dealing with a deep bruise of his finger. We'll see when he's able to return. They haven't been ruling him out per se, but he did get PDF'd, and when you get PDF'd, it usually means you're out for an extended period of time. Scoot Henderson, no PDF, no official email, no official word from the Blazers on this. No official word from the Blazers. Dude gets in a car accident, misses multiple games. No official word. I will call it poorly handled, but that is my beef and not yours. Let's stop the beef. Let's talk praise. I thought Deni Avdija was pretty good in this game. I think he was clearly the bright spot for the Portland Trail Blazers, and it continues a trend for Deni where he's just been better. He's been better. He has not taken off to be the peaks of the peaks that he was a season ago in Washington, but he has so consistently improved as he's figured out how he's going to fit in the Blazers offense, and the Blazers have kind of figured out more of how to use him as well. Let's talk Deni in that second segment. Join me there, won't ya? First, though, let's talk about BILT. Look, maybe this cold, wet, rainy season in Portland has got you dreaming of a warm weather getaway. Well, say you want to use points for travel. You want to get a nice flight. You want to get yourself a nice hotel room. Well, here's a little life hack for you. BILT lets you earn points on rent payments and then redeem them towards flights, towards hotels, towards a whole lot more. One of your biggest investments should get you more than just a roof over your head. Let me explain. There is no cost to join BILT, and as a member, you'll earn valuable points on rents and on your everyday spending. BILT points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even the ones you haven't heard of. There are over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world where you can redeem your BILT points. Points can also be redeemed towards future rent payments and unique experiences that only BILT members can access. So if you're not earning points on rent, my question is, why not? Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbilt.com/lockedonnba. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonnba. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you. Join Bilt. Joinbilt.com/lockedonnba to start earning points on your rent payment today. Today's show is also brought to you by Robinhood, the new gold standard. You don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up today at robinhoodgold.com. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rates may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. All right, still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. I usually do that in the third segment, but, sometimes you just pull it out in the middle of the show as well. Let's talk about Deni Avdija. A lot went wrong for the Blazers in this game. 8 of 46 from 3. They didn't turn the ball over that much, only 11 turnovers, but you shoot terribly from the 3-point line, and the Grizzlies just kind of, you get a couple extra injuries. Rob Williams with concussion, Jeremy Grant with a knee injury. You don't crack 50 points in the second half. You don't crack 45 points in the second half. You don't hit triple digits, and you get rolled, right? You lose 98-123. It wasn't like a game where you're like, hell yeah, I'm about to listen to Locked On Blazers. But I do think that it wasn't all bad. I'm not necessarily hunting for silver linings on this show, but I don't want to beat you over the head with doom. The Blazers are 7-11. And they came into this game 7-10. There's a chance this is the high point of their season, right? Like, let's be 100% honest. The beginning stretch of the season might be the most fun. So I'm not going to doom and gloom you. I'm gonna keep it real, and I plan to keep it real later in the show. But I think Deni Avdija is legit positive and not like hunting, chasing. Oh, I wanted it all, rainbows and another nice thing, fairies. Is that what people say? I don't know. In any case, Deni Avdija's been hooping. He's been playing a lot better, and he's been playing a lot better in a way that is feels totally real, right? Like, it's not like he's just like having these outlier shooter games or one particularly fun matchup, or he's just like, oh yeah, or like gimmicky stuff where he's only been really good if they go in as a small ball 5, and otherwise he's having trouble. I do think the small ball 5 stuff is really intriguing, and I think he's looked good in that role the last 2 games. It's probably not really sustainable for this team to play a big chunk of that, but clearly it's something they can go to a little bit, and when they do that, Deni thrives. But I think the real important part of this is that Deni has just found his footing, and the Blazers have kind of figured out how to use him a little bit better. At the beginning of the year, they didn't have no idea how to deploy Deni. Some of it, I think, was a tough fit, like a kind of a clunky fit next to Scoot, who needs the ball in his hands and needs to and wants to dribble and survey and probe and all of those things. Tough fit next to DeAndre Ayton, who's just like, he's not a hard roller, he's not a lob guy, he's like, he wants to operate in the middle of the floor, and he's like, I also would like to just drive to the middle of the paint every time down the floor. How come we can't figure it out? And then it's like also the Blazers' just general lack of shooting. It's like, okay, yeah, Deni's not going to be his best self with less space because he is not going to open up the floor naturally as like a bomb-away shooter guy. But the Blazers have just used him smarter. They have given him the ball in his hands and let him make plays a little bit more. They've really empowered him to run. The Blazers aren't like crazy fast team, but they're above average in pace, or at least they were prior to this Memphis game. I haven't checked. I assume they still are right in that range. Above average in pace, playing a little bit faster. That's going to play into Deni's hands, giving him more chances to make reads from the middle of the court. They even used him a couple times as a post-up guy in this game. as a, throw it into the post and let him make decisions. They've done that a handful of times over the last week, kind of some like split cutty things where they throw it into him and guys get to make, two players get to make a read, one, whether you go in or out off of cuts by throwing into the post. Like they've just used him. They've utilized him better. And Deni has responded, in this game, 17 points, 8 boards, 6 assists, 7 of 16 from the floor, 2 of 7 from 3. Like it's not this great shooting night. He's been getting the free throw line more often than he did in this game. Took just 2 free throws, but it continues to stretch for Deni. He's now had 5 consecutive games in double figures, and he's had 5 consecutive games with at least 12 points and at least 6 rebounds. He's just like his skill is versatility, right? Like that's what sets Deni apart. Physical, he's athletic, but what really makes him special is versatility. That is the headliner with him, is that the different ways that he can be impactful. I think we've seen him be really impactful on defense, guarding point guards, guarding Alperen Şengün, and certainly it's more fun when he's like, stopping a 1-on-4 fast break because the Rockets didn't pass the ball enough, or stripping Alperen Şengün on the way up, or blocking Alperen Şengün taking a jumper in the final minute of a game. Like certainly it's more fun when Deni does this in wins, right? Like I'm not trying to sell you like, actually, if you watch closely, you could really enjoy the Memphis game. I don't even know if you could get there, but I will say, like, part of this exercise of like being a Blazers fan, and quite frankly, like if you're we're at like the 15-minute mark of the show, if you're watching or listening to this program in November after this particular game, like you are looking for incremental improvement, and Deni's been that, right? Like it was a rough sled early on. They couldn't figure out how to use him. They were trying this bigger lineup, and like that group made sense and was fun, but it did not work offensively. They needed to do something. So they moved Deni to the bench. I kind of thought they might move Toumani to the bench, but I think it's totally reasonable to move Deni to the bench. And maybe in some lineups, it gives him more opportunity. Although when Scoot is fully healthy, you're bringing 2 creators off the bench, and so some of the bench heavy lineups will have some of the challenges. And when DeAndre Ayton's healthy, it's going to be all of those things. But like, I think the way they've deployed Deni, more catches in the middle of the floor, less stuff in the corner, more catches on the more. He's not catching like a ton of stuff on the move in the half court, but they're getting him going a little bit and like letting him push. And when he pushes in transition, you make the defense make a choice, and then they're reacting off of that. Deni's going to be limited by the roster, right? Like, the idea was he was going to play pretty well off Anthony Simons because Anthony Simons can shoot, but he has not shot well this year, and that pairing hasn't worked out the way you might want it to. I don't think Deni and Shaedon Sharpe have as good a chemistry as I would have hoped, but clearly they have a little bit of a budding chemistry. Like, I think what Deni has done best isn't that he's like developed some massive 2-man game with someone, is that he's just figured out how to fill in some of the cracks. And I think he's like, you're seeing his IQ kind of catch up with the Blazers scheme. Blazers offense is pretty vanilla, right? Like, it devolves into a lot of just like stand around and go get it usually after the first action, and if the first action doesn't work, it's a lot of stand around and go get it. But I think Deni has done a better job of forcing the action in those stand around and go get it moments. Okay, I'm going to get 2 feet in the paint. Okay, I'm going to pass, I'm going to cut and move and hopefully make the defense make some choices. Like, if you're looking for incremental improvements, no doubt about it, over the last 5 games, Deni has played his best basketball, and that's where you want the arrow to go. Challenges are going to come back up. Like I said, might be limited by the roster, but if you watch these games closely, which I imagine you do, or you listen closely to me watching them closely, I think this was a step in the right direction. And I'll leave this here, the final thought here. One of the things I liked most about this game is Deni's field goal attempts, 16. I think sometimes while he has been trying to find his way, he has been a little bit passive. He's been like, well, I'm not going to step on someone's toes, or I literally don't know where my shots are going to come from. So he was like, early in the year, he was taking like bad 3-pointers because he couldn't figure out where his shots come from. I think he's ditched some of those, like, he took 7 threes in this game, which is his most in a long time, a season high for him. But like, I think for the most part recently, he's kind of ditched some of the like off the dribble, above the break threes, which are just like not where his bread and butter is, to like be more, go find his places where he can attack, be more aggressive. Don't force those things. But like there is a line that he has to walk between not forcing bad shots and just like straight up disappearing in the offense. And I think he is figuring out slowly but surely how to be aggressive, how to get himself to the free throw line by being physical and by being aggressive, and then how to like know when he needs to kind of take the reins. And if we don't know how long Jeremy Grant's going to be out, but if that's an extended absence, like you're going to need more of Deni to take over some offensive load because Jeremy is a huge part of their, like, when they look productive, Jeremy Grant is often at the front of that. So good Deni stuff recently, steps in the right direction. Let's talk about the truth about this team. It might just be like this. Sometimes it really do be like that. And here we are 18 games into this thing, and I kind of think it's starting to look like this is the way it might be. Let's talk about the truth of this roster a little bit in the third segment. Join me there, won't you? First, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by underwear, my underwear, yes, Skims. You might know Skims, a popular brand, famous on the internet. You probably know them for making mostly women's garments, mostly comfortable clothes for the women in your life to wear. Or if you are a woman actually is the singular of that word. If you are a woman, comfortable clothes for you to wear as well. But if you're a man or you just like rocking men's underwear, well, guess what? Skims has got you covered now. They launched a new line of men's underwear. Skims was kind enough to send me a couple pairs. I'm rocking, they got 100% cotton, the super soft stuff, but I'm rocking the more stretchy looks. And here's the best compliment I can give Skims. I don't notice them. I put them on in the morning. They're incredibly comfortable. And then I go on about my day, living life, not thinking about my underwear because I just am wearing comfy underwear, doing things like recording a podcast. I'm not thinking about what I'm wearing. I'm living life. That's a compliment for you. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com/LockedOnNBA. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and then select my show in the drop-down menu that follows. And if you're looking for the perfect gifts for the whole family, Skims just launched their biggest holiday shop ever. Also available at skims.com/LockedOnNBA. Still a pass first point guard, still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers, and this time I hit it in the right break. We're coming back. Let's close the show. Blazers struggled in this one, and like I said, I don't think this was a doom and gloom game. I just think this was a talent game. The Grizzlies are deep and talented. I said on a show, not on this show, but on our like larger season preview on the network. So if you're listening to all of my audio work out there, audio video work out there, you probably heard me say this, that the thing I was worried about the Grizzlies is that the best version of them in the past, they had been deep, and I didn't think they were very deep this year. And I got to apologize. I got to apologize to Jay Huff. I got to apologize to Jake LaRavia. I got to apologize to Santi Aldama, still doing it, although I was kind of a Santi believer, quite honestly. Apologize to Brandon Clark, who's bounced back and become a useful part of that starting group, even if he's not playing gigantic minutes. They're deep. They do indeed have depth, and they overwhelm you with like just... They don't put a lot of negative players on the courts. And I think the Blazers lost this game because of talent. Like, I think they ended up losing this game and getting kind of rocked in that third quarter because they just kind of ran out of talent. They also just like, some of this is just the reality of this team. They're the worst shooting team in the NBA. They're last in the league in effective field goal percentage, according to Cleaning the Glass. This is who they are, right? Like, there is no magic to make Toumani Camara a better shooter. He started out the year shooting pretty well. He's kind of come back to earth a little bit, and tonight he was 1 of 8 from 3. He's kind of had a bumpy road trip. I mentioned Shaedon Sharpe at the beginning of the show. Like, the challenge for Sharpe is to take his good nights and make them happen more frequently. The peaks, how often he can hit his peaks. He's 21 years old. He's not quite there to being like the lead guy on a good offensive team. He's just not quite that level yet. Hopefully he gets there in January, February, and as we continue to see him improve and grow and all of those things, like he's just not there yet. And Anfernee Simons has just been bad to be in this year. He had a really nice fourth quarter and helped them win a game against the Rockets, but on the whole, Anfernee Simons has struggled, and like this is kind of the ask for Ant. he's 2 of 14, 1 of 7, didn't get to the free throw line. I will say a nice thing about Shaedon Sharpe is he did take 6 free throws in this game, and he has been someone who has been a more frequent visitor of free throw line, using his physicality and his athleticism to get there. Some of the the shooting has not been super consistent for Shea, and kind of both. He'll he's finding his way, but I think he's done a good job of getting the free throw line. Simons is just the whole idea of him is that he just needs to be a good offensive player because he has some other shortcomings. I don't think this was a terrible playmaking game from Ant. I mentioned that at the top of the show. I actually think, particularly in that second quarter, when the Blazers scored, I thought Ant did a when they scored 30 points, I thought Ant was pretty good making plays. I thought I thought he made the right reads. I thought he made some some simple passes that's yes, that's the right pass, which sometimes can be a struggle for him. But your teammates have to make shots for assists to go in. I don't think this was a horrendous playmaking night. He's had some of those. I don't think that was one of them. It was just a game where he just didn't shoot well. Add it to the list of games he hasn't shot well. He was bad in this one. And the Blazers offense, this team is not going to be a good offensive team, but if Anthony Simons, in theory, their best shot creator on the roster is straight up can't shoot, it might just be like this. This might just be what it looks like, right? This will be their plight, is just they are not going to be good enough on offense. And it's kind of who they've been. I'm not going to freak out too much about it. Like I said in yesterday's show, every game doesn't need to be a referendum on someone's overall value. Sometimes it just it is what it is. Dude's just not playing well. See ya. I'm comfortable leaving it there. You might not be. You can leave it wherever you need to. But I think this is kind of who they are. If you look at the Blazers' profile as a team, they've had among their losses. So they're 7-11. They've won 7 games. 2 of them have been by double digits, right? They've had some big wins. They thrashed New Orleans, they thrashed Minnesota. 2 double-digit wins. The other 5 are all single-digit victories, including a couple that came down to the final possession. When they win, typically they claw out games in the clutch, right? Because they're not going to run away and hide from teams with a really good offense. Their defense is good enough to kind of be competitive and keep them in games, and they're not a runaway and hide type team. 5 of their 7 wins have been by single digits. They're going to play a bunch of close games. If they're going to win, they're going to win close. It's kind of the mark of teams that aren't great. And 9 of their 11 losses this year have been by double digits, including 6 by 20 or more. It is just point of fact. They are not a good offensive team, and sometimes it gets away from them, and that's that, and they're just going to get blown out because the other team is more talented. It doesn't absolve them of all of their woes to say that the other team is more talented and that's why they lost, right? You look at Memphis, they run a really fun offensive system. Watch Memphis play. Pass, cut, handoff, ghost screen, cut down the middle, big guy fades to the corner. They're creative. The ball moves, pass, cut, move, so much more activity than the Blazers offense. Some of the Blazers' woes are that they have bad shooters and they don't have a bunch of playmakers. It's hard to run an offense where the ball whirs around and flips all over the court when you don't have a bunch of dudes who can pass. But when I see Jake LaRavia and Luke Kennard, and even I think Brandon Clark is pretty skilled, but even to some extent, a rookie like Jalen Wells, when I see them execute an offense that is a little more movement oriented and a little more that has a lot more passing, it's yeah, the Blazers are, some of their problems are their own. When I see them shoot bricks, some of their problems are their own. But I think in general, my perspective here is that instead of getting so worried about what they aren't, right? They're not a well-coached team on offense. And what they aren't. They don't have shooters. My focus is on are they trying to do things that would help them? Are they putting Shaedon Sharpe in a position where he can attack and get to his spots? Are they using Deni in a smart way? Are they generating shots and it just is who it is? And that's, and it's Delano Banton or Tumani Kamara on the wing. And it's just yeah, sure. Right. It happens. In this game, for instance, and this is and I'll leave it here. It's the Blazers are playing without Donovan Clingan maybe for a week or so. Playing without DeAndre Ayton, who's missed a handful of games in a row. They're down Rob Williams at halftime. Chauncey Billups doesn't want to play Duop Reath clearly because he does not think he can defend at the level that this team wants to defend at and execute the schemes where they want to play as aggressive as they do. He's worried about Duop's athleticism. I don't need to ask him that. I can tell by his decision making that's exactly what it is. He doesn't believe in what he's going to bring on the defensive end, and that might be right. But Chauncey puts in Jabari Walker, start at center in the second half, and Jabari's probably, although he's more small forward size, he's more centered skill set, and so like they put him as a small ball center, right? And there's part of me that says like Jabari Walker is not good enough to play against a good Grizzlies team and be competitive, right? Like you're playing a good team on the road and you put in Jabari Walker in and it's over. And the other part of me says like, I want to see what Jabari Walker does. And can he do some things that are good? Is he a guy who he's watched a lot, right? He spent a lot of time on the bench this year, probably in a role that he didn't totally anticipate. Can he seize a weird small role in one game and play a little bit better? And I don't think Jabari Walker was super good in this game. I think some of his warts were on display, but I think Jabari Walker gave you a little bit of like, yeah, he had a professional, I'm ready, I'm a little bit outmatched in this game and like against a bigger lineup, but I'm going to do what I do well. And I think that's how I'm going to try to watch the Blazers from here. Is like, I'm going to try less to freak out about losses, although I'm going to freak out a little bit. So I'll get frustrated from time to time and try to not focus on so much of what they aren't, because I think getting obsessed with what they aren't misses the incremental improvements. And I don't think this team is going to look very similar when they're good again, right? So like some of this is just self-preservation. But I think for me, as the Blazers come out of this road trip and we head into November and we're into sort of like the truth part of the season, like you're either good or you're not, like we're getting to the truth part of the season where it's just like, okay, here's the truth. When we get to as we approach that point where the real truth happens, I'm going to try to spend less time worried about what they aren't. I'll still be myself. But I think my watching habits will be less obsessed with what they don't have and more on the hunt for what they can become. Come back for tomorrow's show. We'll do more of this 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.